A time of famine and heartbreak. In the land of Moab, the scorching sun had burned the earth dry. Crops withered, and the winds howled through the empty fields as famine gripped the land. Naomi, a woman of Judah, had come to this foreign soil with her husband, Elimelech, seeking refuge from the hunger that ravaged Bethlehem. They had brought their 2 sons, Mahlon and Chilion, in the hopes of rebuilding their lives in this distant place. For a time they flourished. Mahlon and Chilion married Moabite women, Ruth and Orpah, and their homes rang with the sounds of love and laughter. But fate, it seemed, was not finished with them yet. Elimelech was the first to fall. The strong man who had led his family to safety was now lying cold beneath the earth. Naomi's heart ached, but she held on for the sake of her sons. Yet one by one they too were taken. First Mahlon, then Chilion. The house that had once been full of life was now shrouded in silence and grief. Naomi was crushed, her heart heavier than the stone walls that enclosed her. Her dreams had been buried along with her family, and she now stood, a widow in a foreign land with nothing left. A desperate choice. One evening, as the setting sun bathed the barren landscape in hues of crimson, Naomi called Ruth and Orpah to her side. Her face was etched with sorrow, her eyes hollow from days of weeping. "My daughters," she began, her voice barely a whisper, "the hand of the Lord has turned against me. I have nothing left for you here. Return to your families. Find new husbands. Start new lives. I am going back to Bethlehem, to die in the land of my ancestors." Orpah's heart broke as Naomi spoke. The idea of leaving the woman who had become like a mother to her was unbearable. But the logic in Naomi's words was undeniable. Orpah loved Naomi dearly, but fear clawed at her. How could she survive in a land where she was a foreigner, where no one knew her name? Tearfully, she kissed Naomi's hand and, with a final glance, turned her back, walking away into the fading light. But Ruth, silent until now, knelt at Naomi's feet, her voice fierce and unwavering. "Do not urge me to leave you, or to turn back from following you. Wherever you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there will I be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me." The intensity of Ruth's words hung in the air, as though the very heavens were listening. Naomi stared into Ruth's eyes, seeing not the young woman she once knew, but a warrior, a woman of courage and fire. Naomi knew then that Ruth would not be dissuaded. Together, they would face whatever lay ahead. Return to Bethlehem. The journey back to Bethlehem was long and perilous. The 2 women walked through rugged terrain, the wilderness stretching endlessly before them. Each step was a battle against exhaustion and hunger. Naomi's spirit had withered, but Ruth, with a strength she hadn't known she possessed, pushed on, determined to protect the woman she had pledged her life to. As they approached Bethlehem, the news of Naomi's return spread like wildfire. The women of the town whispered in shock as they recognized her gaunt figure. "Is this Naomi?" they murmured, astonished at how much she had changed. Naomi raised her head, her voice filled with bitterness. "Do not call me Naomi," she said, her words cutting through the air. "Call me Mara, for the Almighty has made my life very bitter. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty." The townspeople were speechless, but Ruth, standing at Naomi's side, remained unshaken. She could see the pain etched into every line of Naomi's face, but she had not come this far to lose hope. The fields of Boaz. To survive, Ruth set out to gather grain in the fields. It was the time of the barley harvest, and the fields outside Bethlehem were golden with ripening crops. Ruth, with her headscarf tied tightly, began gleaning behind the reapers, gathering the leftovers from the harvest. Unbeknownst to her, the field she had chosen belonged to Boaz, a wealthy and influential man, and a relative of Naomi's late husband. Boaz noticed Ruth from afar, her determined figure standing out among the other women. He was impressed by her hard work, but more so by the story he had heard of her loyalty to Naomi. Boaz approached her, his voice kind but commanding. "Stay in my fields," he said, "and do not go elsewhere. I have instructed my men not to touch you. Drink from the water jars when you are thirsty, and may the Lord reward you for what you have done for your mother-in-law." Ruth, humbled by his generosity, bowed low. "Why have I found such favor in your eyes, though I am a foreigner?" Boaz smiled, his eyes warm. I have heard of your kindness to Naomi. Your loyalty is known to all. The Redeemer's promise. As the harvest days passed, Naomi saw the hand of God in Boaz's kindness. She told Ruth of a sacred law in Israel, the law of the kinsman redeemer. Boaz, as a close relative, had the right to marry Ruth and redeem the family's land. In the dead of night, Ruth approached Boaz on the threshing floor, a place where men separated grain from chaff. At Naomi's direction, she lay down at Boaz's feet, a symbol of her willingness to come under his protection. Boaz woke with a start, but seeing Ruth there, he understood her silent plea. You are a woman of noble character, he said gently. Do not fear. I will do what you ask. But there is another, closer in line to redeem you. I will speak to him first. The next morning, Boaz went to the town gate, the place of judgment, and met with the other relative. In front of the elders, Boaz offered him the right to redeem Naomi's land. When the man refused, Boaz, in a solemn ceremony, removed his sandal and claimed Ruth as his bride, sealing the promise. A new beginning. Ruth and Boaz were married in a joyous celebration that echoed throughout Bethlehem. Naomi, once bitter and broken, now held a grandson in her arms. They named him Obed, and he would be the grandfather of the great King David, through whose line the Savior of the world would one day be born. In the end, Naomi's grief had given way to joy, Ruth's loyalty had been rewarded, and their story became one of hope, redemption, and the unbreakable bond of love that overcame the deepest of trials. This retelling brings more focus to the emotional journey of the characters, highlighting the tension, love, and dramatic moments that shaped their lives. It's a tale of resilience, faith, and destiny,